I'm back. Had to take a little bit of a break after after the fucking joint address to Congress. The not State of the Union hollowed out my brain and destroyed my brain cells. I feel God damn it, I forgot to do the thing where I'm gonna actually go back and change that this time. I forgot to open change the setting where you see two decimal points after the speedometer number. Uh, that's just a little autistic thing. I love numbers. I love the statistics. Also, I need to move this. Base title? Yeah. Hey, look, I said I was gonna title the stream that shit that people were posting in the Discord, and I was not joking. I did, in fact, title it that. With some minor alterations, but yeah. Here, hold on. I gotta move this. Like that? I don't know. Nope. Like this. Okay. It was a long time ago, apparently. What? I was watching a video of a billionaire going, like, I've developed a plan to fight this, and it's trading smart people? What? Long time ago? Huh. Wonder what that's about. And I mean that in, like, I actually don't know. Just that ever so slightly. Oh, Republican billionaire and their plan to defeat fake smart people? Okay, I got it, I got it. There's some, like, anti-intellectual bullshit? Yeah. Alright. Is it? It is loading. Okay, okay, okay. I need to go into the settings and change the speedometer. Autocorrect nightmare. I gotcha. Options. My stuff language pack. Okay. Wait. Uh. Oh, is it maybe here, hold on. Let's go back. Maybe it's a setting in the game itself. All right. I guess I'll just launch the game. And if I can't find it in there, then I will just play the game. Maybe figure that out at some point off stream. It's not a huge deal. Uh Let me get right into the topics that I lined up for today because I wanted today to be a little bit of a shorter stream, or rather, I think I want today to be a bit of a shorter stream because I've got another thing to do today. Um, and most of this is going to pertain to the aftermath of the joint address to Congress that I reacted to in full. Thank you. You can find that on YouTube. I was not joking when I said that, it was only going to have minimal editing because I like legitimately do not have the time or patience to like uh I legitimately do not have the patience to edit down a 2.5 hour video that contains me talking the whole time. Like I don't think it even needed any cuts or anything like that. Let's see here. For rewind settings? AO settings? Hmm. Host. Race settings, maybe? No. Oh, wait, speedometer. Yes. Okay, 2 digits. Thank you. Great. All right, found it. Now that I've done that, let's get into the game. Okay, let's go to the first link. Now that I am getting myself ready to the game online. Where is the Here it is. It was kind of buried in there. You guys will not be able to see this, but if I make any of these things a segment, that's also like why I have these links readily available, so I can refer back to them when I'm editing, so that you guys, like the people on YouTube, will see it. At the very least. Imagine a Mario Kart track that's randomized. Oh god, that would be a nightmare. Genuine, like, nightmare shit. Would not be able to... Wait, actually, I was gonna say, like, nightmare shit, and that's kind of true, but I just realized that actually exists, and it's called Stroben's Desert. You guys know about Stroben's Desert? The new version is actually less like this. Remember the old version? Old school Stroben's Desert was the randomly generated nightmare track. New Mario Kart coming up with the release of Switch 2. It isn't too late for new ideas. So true. Not the OG. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Shoutouts to the OGs that have seen the top 40 custom tracks in Mario Kart Wii 2012 edition, featuring Troy, TWD, and his friend Colton. That, if you could believe it, that was one of the earliest exposures I had to custom tracks, aside from, like, Rate That Custom Track. And, holy shit, Stroben's Desert, like, back at the time, it was, like, just genuinely impressive that people could make shit that was that crazy. And so I think, of its time, it was, like, an appropriate list of tracks. But then, like, you play Stroben's Desert, and it's, like, a fever dream. It was removed from CTGP in 2015. Yeah, in 2015, you started to get a much, much better quality of tracks that people could submit. Hey, the voters think their idea will be the one that's intimate. I think autocorrect might have picked the wrong word there. Anywho, finally the link loaded. I was I was reminiscing a little bit about the olden days of Mario Kart Wii custom tracks, thank you. But I was also killing time while this loaded. Replaced by Headlong Skyway. I remember that track. That one was not that bad. It was loved by the competitive scene, which means that I hate it. But it wasn't that hard to figure out, like, where you were supposed to go, because the track was a giant star shape, I think. Yeah. Yeah, the shape of it was basic, and I appreciate it for that. You know, the regular voter said, like, they wouldn't do this, and then... Oh, yeah, I think I got it. It was bland looking, had several bugs and blind jumps. Yes, very, very of its time, for sure. And very long as well. Even with it being a 2-lap track, it was still a very long track. And there were a couple of, like, competitive strats and, like, shroomless shortcuts that you had to know. It was very custom track, which I think was to its detriment in some ways. Anyways, CNN politics, as I'm beginning the race here on Arcade GP track. 10 Democrats join with Republicans to censure Representative Al Green for Trump speech protests. That's right. Al Green was a fucking based king, stood up, pointed his cane at Donald Trump, and yelled, "You have no mandate," which was the correct thing to do if he was, you know, for anybody that showed up, that was the correct thing to do, was to shout him down like that and to build that counter narrative. Like, no, you don't have a mandate, actually. And the House of Representatives actually voted to formally censure him, which, if you're not familiar, censoring basically is the virtue or vice signal or whatever that, like, the House of Representatives or the Senate, I think, can do this also to one of their members, says, yeah, you did a bad thing and we're saying it's bad, and also it's kind of implied by the word censure, but, like, you're not allowed to speak anymore. Like, they can still vote. He can still vote on legislation that comes to the floor, but he's actually not allowed, as per the rules of the House of Representatives, he's not allowed to speak at, like, the podium or at the microphone anymore. For like a period of time or something like that. It's fucked up. And 10 Democrats voted for this. All the Republicans voted for this. and 10 Democrats voted for it too. And the fucked up thing about it too is that I think more Democrats were also like really disapproved of what Al Green did, wanted to censor him, but like knew that censoring him would look bad. Because if you look at the vote total, I actually looked at a C-SPAN video about this censure vote. The 10 Democrats was just barely enough to get the vote to pass, which means that those 10 Democrats basically drew the short straw to be like, all right, we have to take one for the team being the establishment Dems and like the leadership and whatnot, so that we can tut Al Green for stepping out of line, basically. You know? It's like that rotating villain shit where, yeah, that like legitimately was like, oh, but he's rude. He was too mean about it. It's legitimately like the rotating villain shit where, oh, the Senate is split even 50-50 with the vice president being the tie-breaking votes for Democrats. So theoretically, if you wanted to just do Medicare for all, you could. You could just pass that shit by a 50 vote plus one margin, but there's always one Democrat that votes against it and will be able to like kill any legislation. The reason that happens is because the Democratic Party doesn't actually want to do anything good, but they want to maintain the facade that they're in favor of good things. So they like basically pick one person to be the rotating villain. They're like, nah, sorry, I object to this. And then conveniently, it only takes one person to torpedo the whole thing. And that's what I think happened here. It only took 10 Democrats to join all the Republicans and censure Al Green. So that's all that happened. It was just the 10 Democrats. But I guarantee there are more Democrats in the House that are so fucking civility pilled and full of liberal brain rot that were like, Al Green should have been more polite, actually. He should have sat still. But they realized that like if they say that, that looks really bad for them. So they left it to those 10. Sometimes I get sick of saying the same thing over and over again because nothing ever changes sometimes. Yeah, it keeps happening. It wasn't just this time either. The rotating villain thing happened in the 2010s and 20s with, I believe, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. It happened in the first Trump term early on with, who is it? The like Chris Coons or whoever it was. From the 2000s up until now, there have been rotating villains in the Democratic Party. That and funnily enough, it's usually just the Democrats that are subject to such an obvious pattern of like rotating villain behavior. You know, the point being, they voted to censor my goat, and do not let the vote totals fool you. A lot of the Democrats wanted to also censor him because they're massive cowards, and they're such big cowards they weren't even willing to vote to censor him. They had to like basically set up a few fall guys. Huh. Poor bastard, baby Luigi. This makes me want to get rid of 99% of politicians. Oh yeah, and here's the thing, right? This is, in a way, it is actually unique to the federal level. Because while this happened, and that's bad, and I want to discuss a couple things that are good. There is still that 1%. Al Green, before the like censure vote happened, there's like an opportunity for Danny Poplio, welcome back. There's an opportunity for the politician in questions, like, oh, Al Green, you're gonna be like, there's a vote to censor you or whatever. Do you want to like get up to the microphone before the vote happens to like say some stuff? And so he was like, yeah. And so he goes up to the microphone and he was like, I believe that I should explain my actions and why I did what I did. And he basically said, you know, Donald Trump was giving his speech and he said he had a mandate, which is a lie. So I stood up to challenge him and told him, you do not have a mandate to cut these social services. And he told a more personal story about some people in his district back from where he's from, who depend on these services to survive. And he was like, so yes, I told the president that he does not have a mandate because he does not have a mandate, and I would do it again. He legitimately said, like, basically in very polite Southern terms, I'm not sorry, I would do it again. and then they censored him. That's my goat. So that's the 1% of politicians at the federal level that isn't so cowardly and bought that they actually stand for some shit. But also at the state level, this is not as much of a thing. Don't get me wrong, politicians are fucking morons, right? Like, your average politician knows less about politics than probably your average Twitter lefty, which is a very bizarre sentence for me to say. But, like, a lot of politicians get elected with a very technocratic, like, apolitical politics mentality. That's how. They just have, like, local business connections, and they're like, yes, I will help the local community, without understanding so much what that means. But in a way, at the state level and local level, that's to our benefit. And by our benefit, I mean, you know, the people. That's to the benefit of people. Because I saw in Montana as well, Montana was well known for having some trans representatives in its House of Representatives. Zoe Zephyr being the most famous, who is married to Aaron Reed, one of my favorite journos. And they actually were capable to convince Republicans in Montana to vote against an anti-trans bill, because they legitimately, all it took was impassioned pleas on the floor of the House. They're like, look, this bill is going to hurt me. It's going to hurt people that you know. It's going to take kids away from their parents. This is bad, you know? Like, if this bill passes, I wouldn't be able to raise my son. I think, you know, Zoe Zephyr gave a speech to that effect or something like that. And that convinced state Republicans to vote against this bill in Montana, a state controlled by the Republicans. And they actually, like, defeated the bill. Like, it didn't pass. And so, you know, that was a nice bit of, like, hopium. So we need to get rid of 99% of politicians at the federal level, because most of them are fucking bought and paid for like nobody's business. But at the state level, a lot of them are just kind of dumb, and they can be convinced, and that's good. Also, History Boy, welcome to chat, and thank you for the follow. Hope you're having a good day. Shortcut. Basically what they say is the leopards are going to eat your face. Yeah, or something like that. It's like, imagine somebody being dumb enough that they are principally against leopards eating people's faces, but they vote for the leopards eating people's faces party because they've been told that, oh no, leopards actually only eat bad people's faces. You know? Or something like that. Does that make sense? At the federal level, there's a lot of like, yeah, we're not actually principally against leopards eating people's faces. We just like it when it's not our face getting eaten. But at the state level, it's like, well, there's a lot of bad people out there. Some people might need to get their face eaten. And you know, but they are generally against the concept of leopards eating people's faces. That's the analogy I'm trying to make. In Peru, we should get rid of 100% of our politicians. Average Latin American experience. That's good. Montana isn't really Trump land, is it? They're mostly country bumpkins who don't get all this LGBT stuff, but they also don't care that much. That is the average like mindset of you know, of Americans. Even to a degree in Trump country, is that they will be perfectly fine with like a family member who's gay. Is like, oh, you know, my cousin's gay, he's not hurting anybody, he just wants to be left alone, and I can respect that. You know, I don't get all this LGBT business, but you know, they just want to be left alone, and that's fine. You know, it's that mindset that you can appeal to. And that mindset prevails at the state and local level for the most part, because they're not as bought as like federal politicians. In fact, I think the state level might be the place that is the least bought out of all three like levels of government. Because at the local level, you have like one car dealership that owns the whole town, and then like all the politicians are also owned by the car dealership. And then at the federal level, because America has been the global hegemon for so long, that's where like all the fucking money in the world flows through. So obviously they're going to be all bought and paid for by business interests. And then the state level is like this weird in between where that's not really the case. We should have whoever makes the least coherent argument needs to be eliminated. Yeah, local right-wing representative role's worst argument ever. Ask to leave fucking state legislature. It's like in D&D, you have to roll at least a 6 or something like that. You know, on the I don't know what would either 10 or 20 sided die. You have to roll at least a 6. If you roll lower than a 6, your ass is out of here. And every Democrat in the fucking House of Representatives that showed up and, like, didn't say anything rolled a 1. Al Green rolled a fucking 69 somehow on a 10-sided die. And then, like, all the Democrats that didn't show up rolled a 10. It's like that Flat Earth thing. They're all paid actors, except it's real. Yeah, I mean, basically. You know? Like, you look at the fucking socioeconomic demographic of the people that serve in Congress, right? Here, just take my representatives, for example. I live in Representative Don Byer's district, right? Don Byer owned a car dealership. When I said, like, oh, you know, car dealership or whatever, that's not an accident. The car dealerships have, like, a stranglehold over certain politics at certain levels if they're, like, big enough. It wasn't as much the case in the area where I live, but he literally was a car dealership owner before he went into politics. That's his background. Mark Warner, my senator, one of my 2 senators, he was a venture capitalist before he got into politics. These people were bought from the start. You know, that's how federal politics works. It's all just some hobnobbing business shit, and that's a problem. Like, it's a real ass problem. Damn. Sniped another guy, then sniped myself with the same green shell. I ain't gonna lie, that sounds like the goofiest D&D campaign. Gotron. Hope it's going well. Yeah, passing laws to help people? That's not our job. It's like 2 years ago. Well, I hope it was fun, then, in that case. Oh, 3 mushrooms? That's perfect item for right here. Robbery? Let's go. But yeah, that was what I wanted to talk about with respect to this. I don't care to read the CNN article because it's not going to tell me anything useful. Because I already explained all the analysis I think that you can get out of that. I saw the vote happen on a like C-SPAN YouTube video. It's like the government video archive basically. And I think there's some rotating villain shit going on, and you can juxtapose that to the state level where there's like actual arguments being made and like people can actually be convinced. And sometimes at the state level, you actually do get people that are more insane as well. Just look at the way that like states like Ohio, behave with respect to trans rights and women's rights and stuff. Some of them are like actual like 4chan tier Nazis. Right? But that's an important indication that people at that level will actually believe something. As unhinged as it might be, they're not just disingenuous, like, husks of human beings that wear a suit and, like, do the Jerma sus smile at the camera while they explain that they're cutting your fucking social security benefits. Of course, it's in Ohio. Yeah, true. Or like Tennessee or one of those states. You know, you could pick one of those states and a version of what I described has happened there. Anyways. Yeah, they censored my goat. He remains my goat. He said, I'm not sorry and I would do it again because you do not have a mandate. Trump does not have a mandate to cut these services. And he will be remembered positively for this. And the Democrats, I have no doubt, will be remembered as collaborators for capitulating enough to censor him, and the history books probably will talk in some fashion about the rotating villain strategy. So anyways, future me, if that's a segment, cut it there. You know what to do in the editing. And liberals will try to rewrite history? Oh yeah. But convenient thing for us, most historians are not not exactly the kind of institutionalist liberals that are serving in Congress currently. You know, most historians are typically more based than that. Tennessee is very unbased. So I've heard and or seen. Although, you know what's funny is that the more like fucking cringe and anti-based a certain state is, the more based the like Democrats are in that state. Like you go to New York, right? State controlled by the Democratic Party, and all the Democrats are like old, spineless, wealthy Clintonite shitheads, right? Who will shit themselves upon seeing anybody to the left of, well, Bill Clinton. And then you go to Ohio, yeah, or Tennessee, one of these states that's controlled by a Republican Party that spends way too much time on 4chan, and the Democrats are all like fucking Leninists that are saying like we must support the workers in their glorious struggle for liberation and you know, provide free school lunches to all children everywhere, glory to the revolution, etc., etc. It's like, holy shit, dude. It's almost like being in a fascist shithole radicalizes you to the far left. That's crazy. Although, to be fair, it's not just Democrats in states controlled by Republicans that are like that. It's also just, I think, Democrats in Rust Belt states that are like that. You know, you take a look at somewhere like Minnesota with like Tim Walz and all those folks. And they are really, really good on labor issues. Yeah. It's good shit. It seems like the states that are most split between GOP and Dems spawn the most radical politicians. Yeah, it does. It is like that because, like, they have to engage with the public. They have to make those impassioned arguments. And like, everything's taking place on a fucking nice edge or something. You know? Like, seriously, Michigan will be, like, controlled by the Democrats with a fucking 1% margin, and all of a sudden they're passing tenant union protections left and right. Mostly left. It's fascism or communism, extremism leads to either one. True, and I think generally, that's just the spot that we're in, because people are disillusioned and, like, not happy with a liberal status quo. And so, like, there are three real ideologies: liberalism, fascism, and socialism. When liberalism has failed, you go to one of the remaining two. You go to either fascism or socialism. So, of course, things are going to, like, naturally start to diverge to either of those points. You know? Yeah, people who will believe in horseshoe theory enthusiasts are not eating good right now. Which makes me happy. You know? Mushroom Bridge. It was a good track. Recently, I've been telling people who don't know anything to look up the origin of police in America. Yeah, I've read historical articles about this for history class, for essays, and whatever. Police in America originated in slave patrols, fugitive slave patrols in the antebellum North, I believe. Also the antebellum South, but like mostly in the antebellum North, because that's where slaves would escape to. The origin of the police in the United States is basically a gang of people that were the enforcers of plantation owners and would just go and functionally black bag random black people in free states and like traffic them to slave states where they would be enslaved and work on plantations. Like that's the police. That's what they're here to do. Although the pretext they used was like, you know, since slaves are property, you know, they don't have the right to escape and whatever. So we're actually just returning slaves that have escaped. But, you know, because everybody was fucking racist, they didn't actually care that much if they were actually getting the right person, because it's like, oh, you know, whatever, it's a black person, they're all slaves anyway. And so, you know, they just black bagged random black people. Had a chat guy that thought of the political spectrum more like a U, where the bottom of the U is centrism. Shit ass take. And tops are very radical, said the radical ideologies lead to authoritarianism. Over-under on that guy disapproving of democracy, because centrists are more, like, self-described centrists are more authoritarian even than a lot of Nazis. You know? Nazis will make all sorts of populist arguments, a lot of bottom-up arguments, retarded bottom-up arguments about, like, the white race and whatever. But centrists are the most, like, anti-democratic, like, populist brain shits in the world. And frequently, centrists are just Nazis that, like, don't want to be called Nazis. Like, everybody who has ever come into my chat and like, called themselves a centrist, like, 5 minutes later at most, was defending, like, ethnic segregation and ghettos. Like, state-enforced ghettos. You know? Average centrist, I suppose. Indeed, scratch a liberal, a fascist bleeds, etc., etc. Centrism is where politics goes to die. True. Anyways. Now let's get to the title of the stream. The big prank. Everybody loves a nice prank. Except, no, they don't. Not anymore. This is not 2015, 2016 YouTube. This is 2025 YouTube. Your actions have consequences, as it turns out. From NBC News, Trump walks back tariffs on a range of goods from Mexico and Canada for 1 month. About half of goods from Mexico and more than a third of Canada won't face the 25% tariffs on imports from the two countries that Trump ordered on Tuesday. Wait, so they are kind of still happening. All right. So they partially rolled back the tariffs, I guess in an effort to avoid scrutiny and criticism or whatever. I don't know, man. Look, the government is fucking bipolar, all right? The government is bipolar. I never know what to make of this shit. I'm just gonna say what I think I do know, which is that, like, too late, dog. Like first of all, some of the tariffs are still on, right? Like, a lot of the tariffs are still in place. But number one, you're so bitch made for this, President Trump. He is completely, like, cucked for doing this. This makes him look so bad. Like, anybody that knows political optics, like, I'm doing it, I did it, we did it, the tariffs are on. Just kidding, we didn't mean it. Like, dog, come on. You know? That's one part of it. Is the absolute spinelessness of Donald Trump on display, and the administration at large. I have no doubt that people other than Trump were involved in this decision making. But then also, this is just from the United States' end. This is just our tariffs on Mexico and Canada. This doesn't necessarily mean the Mexican and Canadian tariffs on us, which they still have. Like, at the same time that the tariffs from the United States came down on stuff from Mexico and stuff from Canada, Mexico and Canada put tariffs on America, and those tariffs haven't been revoked. They're still there. I checked beforehand. Future me, if you can find this between now and the editing, put it up in the editing. Canada and Mexico are still putting tariffs on American goods. So the damage is done, bitch. Like, you know, you motherfucker, you can't just say, just kidding. It's like you fucking broke somebody's leg and then you put a band-aid on it. Like, dog, their leg is still broken. Like, you can't say, just kidding, just to prank. Like, this is fucking gone wrong. Cops called. Fucking, you do deserve prison time for this. Etc. Right? 90% chance. Some big business interests called the White House and were like, yo, we're going to lose from X and Y. And so it's being reworked, so there's no big business interests being contradicted, which hopefully never, so the tariffs are never implemented. Yeah, well, yeah, that is partly what led to this happening. The auto industry, particularly, was in a big fuss in the first, like, day or two of the tariffs. They were like, whoa, we're going to lose a lot of money. It was pretty blatant that the auto industry was like, whoa, hold on now. If you put these tariffs in effect, how are we going to make our bottom line? And so they were like, all right, partial exemption for the auto industry. So that is exactly what's happening. there were some shades of this leading up to the tariffs, I guess, and I think they did a version of this in 2018 as well, when the Trump administration put tariffs on China, like farm, on farming goods and like food stuff from China, and it really hurt the farming industry in America. Is that they allowed some exemptions? They like basically cut some sweetheart deals with businesses. It was like legit. It was some like quid pro quo shit, where like, oh, you do this for me and I'll make you exempt from the tariffs so you don't get hurt as bad. That might be what they're trying to do this time as well. But again, like, this shit is so chaotic and so bipolar that they're doing something this consequential and then backing off of it within days that, like, on some level, I actually genuinely don't know, like, what the fuck is the plan outside of what the overarching plan is, which is to crash the economy enough to, like, for all the rich people to go in and buy the dip, and so then on the other side of the crash, they own more of the economy, which is what happened. I do think that there was like a bunch of like oligarchs going in and buying shit on the stock market. I know the stock market crashed in real time as Trump was announcing the tariffs, so that provided an opportunity, you know. This is also like massive opportunity for all the Democrats that are like actually interested in being vocal and setting the narrative. Like, all of them need to call Trump bitch made for this, you know. They all need to say, like, dog, this administration is a bunch of pussies. They're all cowards. They're like they're acting bipolar as fuck. They can't decide which side their bread is buttered on. It's like they're just breaking everything and then saying we're just kidding, haha, and then like acting like that unbreaks everything. Mexico and China is partnering. Ah, the Great Chinese Century begins, or something. Also, welcome back, Soak Now. Also, yeah, probably as they should, because to my knowledge, China is a rational enough geopolitical actor that they're not going to just fucking tariff all their trading partners. You know what I mean? Keep in mind, too, the US put tariffs on our 3 biggest trading partners. The tariffs which are partially still in effect. Mexico, Canada, and China are the United States' 3 biggest trading partners. And Trump was like, what if we destroyed our trading relationship with all 3 of them? It's like, bro. Yeah, this is me when I have to shoot myself in the foot, slam my dick in the car door, destroy the whole world economy, and then say it's just a prank because I'm bored. It's only a matter of time before America gets jumped and outnumbered. I mean, yeah, we've sort of seen with America straight up like abandoning its allies and then deciding, you know what, Putin, you can just do whatever you want in Ukraine. Ukraine, you're not in a good position right now. A lot of people are dying. You're not in a position to negotiate. You know, with shit like that, Europe has already sort of started to de-align from the United States, and I think it would be economically smart of them to start aligning towards China. You know, because, again, China's not going to just decide one day, actually, we must sever all of our trading relationships and crash the world economy because fucking we're bored, I guess. There's a joke in China that's something along the lines of Trump being the CCP's best asset. I mean, he is definitely an asset to geopolitical interests that aren't American, right? Like, there's a lot of libs that go conspiracy brained and decide to do the shit like, Trump is a Russian agent, he was put in the White House by Putin to blah blah blah. I don't think that's necessarily true. Like, he's got connections to the Russian oligarchs, and he's friends with Putin and shit like that. But it's not like the fucking KGB hired him or whatever to run the United States. Like, there's no Manchurian Candidate shit happening here. Like, let's be real. What's happening here is that capital is international, and he's friends with oligarchs because he is an oligarch. That's how it works. National boundaries literally don't apply here. You know, like, all the libs are you know, running to the whole Putin talking points, which are not entirely wrong. Granted, Trump has a relationship with Putin and with a lot of Russian businesses and stuff like that, financial ties, etc. But those exist along class lines. It's not because Trump hates America and, you know, is a traitor to our country. He doesn't care. None of the oligarchs have any allegiance to any country or set of interests apart from their own class interests. That's what's happening here. This is all an act of class solidarity to plunder the rest of society and accumulate wealth on top. This benefits the American oligarchs, this benefits the Russian oligarchs, this benefits the Chinese oligarchs, this benefits the European oligarchs, you know? It's all of them. It's not any specific national set of interests. Stop doing nationalism. Nationalism is a drug. You should stop. You are addicted. Support China, like fuck the US. Critical support to China for being more of a rational actor than the United States. You know, apart from that, it's like, choose your fucking fighter. Oligarch fascism number 1, oligarch fascism number 2, or oligarch fascism number 3, right? Like, they're all big countries that are very thoroughly captured by oligarchical interests. China probably the least so, because they are willing to, at various points, crack down on the oligarchs if they threaten to destabilize the economy at large. You know? I think that's the biggest difference in terms of geopolitical action and sometimes internal political action as well, is the degree to which China and the United States and Russia are willing to or not willing to sometimes rein in their own oligarchs so that society in general doesn't collapse and so they can keep things stable. You know? Like, that's a very real concern. Yeah, we're not tankies here. We're not, you know, waving a red banner for a different country, right? We're waving the red banner of the working class, and we answer to no nation. Although, of course, you know, presumably we all love our countrymen. You know, obligatory patriotic socialism moment, I love America, etc., etc. But, you know how it goes. People say slavery doesn't exist, but America has enslaved entire countries. I mean, slavery still does exist. We just don't call it slavery anymore. You know? We call it, like, sweatshop labor. Or just minimum wage labor. Can't commit treason to their lying with no country. That's true. You know, when you think about it, any crime against the owning class cannot be treason because they don't answer to any nation. That's true. Proof that Trump flip-flops from being authoritarian to being right-wing libertarian, in my opinion, of his policies. Yeah, I mean, he, you know, the Trump administration will just flip-flop back and forth between whatever line of rhetoric they need to justify, like, I don't know, fucking destroying the administrative state to funnel wealth upwards. Like, that's their only objective. Whether they need to argue that we're gonna introduce the strongman rule to this country to make it great again, or whether they need to say, like, this is for the sake of American freedom from oppression from, I don't know, fucking Title IX or something, then they'll do it either way. You know? It would be funny if this happened because Trump is starting to get dementia. That would truly be the funniest timeline if Trump is, like, legitimately crashing out because he's, like, getting too old to remember shit. And like, he genuinely, like, did the tariffs in a fugue state, forgot he did it, and then the next day was like, oh, haha, sorry, I didn't mean it. I don't remember what happened yesterday. You know? That would be the funniest timeline. Telling me billionaires caring about everybody else. About getting more rich just fucks up everybody else. Mind blowing. I know, this is new information here on the Y2K live stream. The interests of billionaires contradict the interests of general society and, like, everybody else, including you and me. Like, that's, wow, that's wild. my opinion, those who sacrifice their freedom for security don't deserve either. I mean, sure. I mean, you could look if you take a look at the average American like voting population, you could be like, dog, these people are barely sentient. Like these people are barely self-aware, right? So like, deserve is one question if it like from a personal perspective, but ultimately like we're all living in society and it's in all of our interests that everybody has rights, you know? They just want doggy treats? That's kind of true. That's kind of true. That sounds fetishy. I mean, not really. I don't know. I mean, Americans do just want their made in China goodies. You know? They want cheap shit. Basically have the intellect of the dog. Yeah, and that's about to get even worse because of something else I'm going to talk about. But yeah, to recap this, I didn't read the NBC article. I got the headline. I skimmed the article beforehand, I think, where I mean, it basically just reiterates the headline and then gives some absolute nothing analysis. This is a fucking, this is a 2-in-1, like, the damage is already done, and Trump trying to renege on this now makes him look super weak and, like, volatile at the same time, you know? And I think that the Democrats or whoever else is interested in being political opposition to Trump at this point would do well to be like, dog, this is your guy? Like, this fucking administration has no balls. They can't commit to anything, you know? Except for making everybody's life worse all the time. Yeah, CNN and NBC, you know, not known for the Marxist analysis and so on, you know. Unless it's like they have one article, it's like, I'm a Marxist and I fucking hate trans people. In that circumstance, you might see some quote-unquote Marxist analysis on NBC or CNN. In that specific circumstance. Funny things, Tennessee's lieutenant governor used his official Instagram account to comment on Twink's post while being supposedly anti-queer. That's funny as hell. I love the fucking yeah. Oh yeah, anti-gay politician, and then they're just fucking gobbling some fucking twink cock on the side or something. It's like every fucking time, dude. All of this shit is psychosexual. Like, all of it. You know? It's only the gayest Republicans that are militantly anti-gay. How many characters in fiction do you think you could convince of socialism? I don't fucking know, dude. Fiction, we're talking about fictional characters. I don't know. Oh yeah, the same people that look for the I'm not gay category. Dude, that shit is insane. That like, oh man. Freud is growing too powerful. The Republicans need to stop feeding that man from beyond the grave. Like, they need to stop. Please. He's too strong already. That there's an entire category on like porn websites called I'm Not Gay, and it's gay porn for like gay dudes that are in denial about being gay because they're homophobic. Funniest shit I've ever heard. Absolute cinema. The number of guys that I've fucked that ended up being heterosexual religious homophobes. Oh yeah, it like anybody who's like heterosexual religious homophobe, just assume they're gay. Like, gay as the day is long, you know? One of his comments, literally word for word, is, Finn, you can turn a rainy day into rainbows and sunshine. A little bit fruity. Coming from our Tennessee lieutenant governor. Welcome to chat. I don't know how to say that name, so I'm gonna let's see. I2C Power. I assume that's how you're supposed to say that. Do you have any takes on foreign stuff like the Middle East? Yes, I do. I haven't been talking about it that much, and I wanna finish up on. What was I talking about? I was talking about the tariffs, and I think I was just about finished on that. Just that, like, even though, like, the administration partially revoked the tariffs, they didn't entirely, and even if they were to entirely revoke the tariffs, the damage has been done because other countries have already put tariffs on the US and started to, like, shift away from economically aligning with America, which is which is bad for America. You know, definitely not good that the president every fucking 5 minutes is like, what if we tariffed all of our allies and trading partners? Haha, just kidding, unless. And then they do it, and then 3 days later, they say just kidding again. You know? That's not good. And it speaks to, like, the whole crash the economy on purpose so that we can go and buy up everything when it's super cheap. And then when the economy rebounds, we own and control everything. Like, I think that's part of that cycle. Like, they're doing this on purpose to a degree. But that's all I really wanted to say about it. It doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot new happening in the Middle East to me, aside from, like, you know, Turkey now invading Syria, which is really fucking bad. You know, and Israel invading Syria, also bad. Israel continuing to just kill everybody in Gaza, which is really fucking bad. And then the United States being like, damn, Alexa, that's so sad. Another 20 billion to Israel. Is like, bro, we're just like every single empire throughout history that has had any sort of presence in anywhere remotely close to the Middle East, it just fucks up the Middle East for no reason. It genuinely, at times, it actually seems like the 1984 Ministry of Peace thing, where like, the war is not meant to be won, it is meant to be fought indefinitely, so as to spend productive resources to, you know, pad the margins of the military-industrial complex, and so that money doesn't go to a better use being spent on, like, actual shit, you know? Seriously, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, was the guy that coined the term New American Century and basically described this exact thing from 1984 as what America should do in the 21st century. Get involved in a bunch of low-level conflicts that don't break out into full, like, country versus country war, but in a way that perpetuates the conflict indefinitely so that we keep projecting our military power abroad, even in a unipolar world. You know? In other words, the war is not meant to be won, it's meant to be fought indefinitely. To justify the military spending so that all the military contractors get their money and shit. That'll just make the public go like, nothing ever matters. What? The fascists are never smart enough to get that working. That's true. Fascists, one thing that you can say about the party in 1984, in order for that model to be successful, it cannot be implemented by a fascist. Because fascism is an irrational ideology. It is incapable of acting with the level of rationality that can basically bring that to bear for a long time. You know? Fascism is doomed to fail because it's incapable of, like, maintaining any rational stability. It is built on ginned up hatred of, like, minority groups and shit. That's why the party collapsed in 1984, because ultimately they are fascist. They hate, you know, ethnic minorities and shit as well. And they're driven by irrational hatred and devotion and shit. And that undermines the ability of the regime to prop itself up. And, I mean, we're seeing this in real time, too. Like, one of the first things that the administration did with regards to like American foreign presence is gut the only good things that America did, which, you know, contained like projections of soft power. But it's like, yeah, what if we just got rid of USAID? What if we just got rid of all of our international like humanitarian spending, which is fucking pennies like compared to the military budget, right? Like, I think the United States was only spending a couple $100 million, if that, on USAID, which is less than 1,000th of the military budget. And they were like, yeah, this is you know, this is wasteful government government spending, actually. And then they fucking destroyed USAID. They're doing this with other nonprofits and like agencies that work for the federal government as well, that like do foreign aid outreach. They're cutting all of those. Those are the things that maintain American soft power, the things that are capable of making America such a presence that it can act as a unipolar entity, you know? And at the same time, they do so in a comparatively less unethical way than just having the military everywhere, you know? One of the things that is capable of maintaining empires for such a long time, you can see this with any empire in history, the most oft-cited one being Rome, is that in addition to carrying a really fucking big stick, enough to threaten every society on the planet, or at least in their vicinity, you have to have a pretty damn appealing carrot as well. And the United States did this by being like one of the biggest, like, what's the term? Funders. Like, we were probably one of the in fact, I think we were the largest funder of like international humanitarian aid on the planet, you know. And it's a similar thing with Rome. One of the biggest factors that kept Rome stable was the fact that it was so willing to incorporate new groups of people into the empire. Not just the way that other empires prior to it did, by like enslaving neighboring populations, but by saying, hey, if you serve in our military for this amount of time, if you assimilate to our ways of life, whatever, we will give you full citizenship with voting rights and property rights. You get to be a citizen. You get to do the enslaving, you know? And that's how empire works. But fascists don't understand that. Fascists are not smart enough to understand how to do imperialism. So they try it, and then they fuck up. And, you know, you see that with USAID, you see that with the tariffs. You know, part of the reason that America was so stable is because of how much economic presence we had. We had a lot of trading relationships with other countries. You know, we owed a lot of money to a lot of people and a lot of countries and a lot of businesses. We did business with fucking everybody. And these tariffs are undercutting that. Everything that the administration is doing is undercutting the ability of America to sustain itself on a domestic and international level at the same time. Legitimately, if you were smart enough to intentionally orchestrate an imperial decline of the United States, you would have a hard time doing a better job of it than what these incompetent, bloviating fucks are currently doing. Sorry, that was a lot. Leftist meme. All that stemmed from a new chatter, I2C Powa, asking me my take on, like, America as it relates to foreign affairs. So there you go. That's my take. Hope you all have enjoyed the lecture. There will be no homework. I am your professor, but I don't give homework because I don't believe in that shit. Hopefully everybody's having a real good and educational time. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. I do love yapping. I find it interesting the most recent Daredevil show, the villains have Punisher tattoos on their arm. Given the way that the Marvel Universe goes, I have a feeling they're going to try to set that up so that the Daredevil and Punisher fight each other at some point, or come to blows, or like end up being at odds and like they oppose each other, but they're both still the good guy or something like that. But really what's going on there, if like in the real world, what that would be is if there's a lawyer that's going out and being like, I must defend people who are incapable of defending themselves, who are being squashed by society currently, and then you encounter some fucking vigilantes with Punisher tats on their arm, those guys are fascists, and the Daredevil is like at the very least, like, liberal-leaning or left-leaning lawyer who wants to, like, I don't know, fucking do some good for once or something like that, you know? Yeah, Marvel is just, like, at this point, Marvel is just a giant fan fiction. Although, funnily enough, I don't usually think about, like, Marvel stuff, because it's kind of designed to be movie slop, basically. A lot of Marvel movies were designed to be, like, you watch it once, you enjoy it, and then it's just kind of, that's it. You know, so they can rake in those box office profits. One Marvel movie sometimes I think about is actually Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Specifically because that's like... It's like the least Marvel movies. A Marvel movie. Yeah, McMovies. It's like the fucking McDonald's Happy Meal or some shit. I genuinely think about that movie sometimes because it's like, what a fucking moment. You know, when as much as liberal ideology is even capable of, it actually offered a characterization and refutation of fascism, where Captain America is this very optimistic figure that believes in people and believes in the willingness of people to act in the interests of each other and of society as a whole and whatever. And basically he believes in democracy, but is so skeptical of institutions that even when he's integrated into them, he's still chafing and being at odds with them to such an extent that he's one of the first to be excised when the fascist takeover starts. The movie that was so secretive to the donors they didn't realize. Was it? Is that real? Because if so, that makes a lot of sense. That they didn't tell the donors and, like, investors what they were making. I doubt that, like, that movie genuinely, you know, befuddles me as to how it got made, but that would make sense if they legitimately didn't tell the donors what was they were doing. So, you know, good on them. Based I think the Russo brothers did that one. But, you know, you have Hydra, this organization that is all about the authority and authoritarianism that is inherent to fascism, the irrational focus on suffering and pain, and like, I must inflict pain on our enemies, people will give up their rights for their security, basically, we will become the state and point a gun to everybody's head if they don't comply, and if you are a threat, you will be eliminated. And we believe in like the supremacy, maybe not of an ethnicity by name, but of the strong man, and we must cultivate the strong man by killing the weak, or some shit like that, you know? They didn't call them fascists, they called them Hydra. That's true, but like very clearly it was a critique of fascism. You know, for all the trappings of a blockbuster, which it did still have, I think it was genuinely a good movie, and I think that it is actually an anti-fascist movie. Hydra happened to side with the Nazis. Yeah, well, the whole plot point, one of the big things about in the movie was Captain America realizing, like, oh, I thought I had defeated all of the Hydra goons, the people that were working with the Nazis during World War II, but actually I didn't. There's still some left, you know, and in fact they grew into this fucking parasite that is leeching off of this otherwise, you know, what people would assume to be like a trusted government institution or whatever. Like, basically, S.H.I.E.L.D. is meant to be the American intelligence apparatus, and Hydra is, like, so integrated with it to the point that it's now indistinguishable. They're literally saying, like, yeah, by the way, the calls are fucking coming from inside the house. You know? So again, that, you know, it would make sense as to that movie being secretive, because that is way too based for the capitalists to have known about. Literally, like, the donors and the investors, like, if they knew about that shit, they'd be like, no, you have to change this and this and this. moving doing something similar to Project Paperclip. Yeah, honestly, the fact that it referred to like Operation Paperclip was a big thing that stuck out to me. I was like, oh yeah, like America did that in real life. Operation Paperclip was basically we recruited a bunch of German scientists, many of whom were dissidents, but also a lot of whom were Nazis that committed unspeakable crimes that we just decided we want your expertise on this subject to be used for our geopolitical interests, and thus we will rescue you from prosecution in the international courts so that you can work for us, actually, and develop, like, rockets and nukes and stuff. You know? Like, they reference that in the movie, and in a way, that's a really good way of communicating. The intelligence apparatus that recruited these guys already wasn't that different from Hydra. It already, like, the Office of Strategic Services, whatever, the CIA, SHIELD, they already weren't that different from the fascists in Germany that committed atrocities. You know, all it took was a little push. Like, that's it. Isn't that how Hydra ended up infiltrating SHIELD? Yeah, that's the point being conveyed there. And the reason that it worked, again, is because they already weren't that different. Can you imagine a movie trying to do that today? Like a Marvel movie of all things, trying to be like, yeah, fascism has infiltrated all the trusted liberal institutions of government, and the reason that they were so successful in doing so is because of our own willingness to incorporate fascists into the structure of government, thus shielding them from the consequences of their war crimes, and also because, quite frankly, in order to make that decision at all, these institutions weren't that different from what the Nazis did to begin with. Like, damn. Like, I don't think I would go as far to say that Captain America, the Winter Soldier is, like, straightforwardly anti-capitalist media, but it's, like, anti-capitalism light. It's not blatantly that, but it has very latent markers of being, you know, anti-capitalist, and it is, at the very least, you can't read it as anything other than, like, critical of liberalism from an anti-fascist perspective, you know? It is, I think, before anything else, Captain America, the Winter Soldier is an anti-fascist movie. And then they just kind of had to make it a blockbuster as well, so that audiences would go and see it and whatnot. And now here we are, more than 10 years... God, it's been more than 10 years since that movie. Now here we are talking about how, like, it's one of the best movies in the MCU. And in fact, a lot of people will remember it as one of the best movies in the MCU because it has a distinct identity and like, actual political themes and message to communicate. I would like to see a good superhero story written by a communist. I would too. I would as well. We've gotten some, like, very, very beginning, like, inklings and inclinations of that from, like, you know, stories written maybe not by socialists, but by people who are principally anti-fascist. You know, we've gotten stuff like Invincible. We've gotten stuff like Captain America, the Winter Soldier. But I don't think we've gotten anything that goes that much further than that. Also, I raced like shit like for this race because I was gushing about Captain America, the Winter Soldier. But that's fine. First two Iron Mans were also anti-capitalist. No, I actually think the first two Iron Man movies... Well, the first Iron Man movie, yes. The second Iron Man movie, not so much. There's definitely an underlying thread of neoconservatism in those movies because... there's a way to read it as like, oh, the smart billionaire would have a better time managing this than the government that deals under the table. But fundamentally, in the first Iron Man movie especially, yes, there is a lot of anti-military industrial complex themes there. Wasn't the first Iron Man basically just don't give weapons to terrorists and it's fine? Yeah, kind of. There was also, like, the understanding, like, hey, these company, like this company that supposedly belongs to this guy, is doing business with these groups, with these terrorist groups and whatnot, because that's just part of doing business. And so I think you could very easily like read into that, like, oh yeah, okay, so businesses do that, you know? Wasn't the big bad just a CEO? Yes, it was Stain or whatever, his friend. Don't spoil Invincible. I just started watching it. I won't. One thing I'll say about Invincible is that although it is written in a way that does indicate some like very median voter-esque tendencies, it is very clear that it is anti-fascist media. You know? Like, if you know, you know, and when you get to that point, I think, Real Cryoraptor, I think when you get to the point where this becomes relevant, you'll probably see what I'm talking about. Invincible is one of the other superhero media that I do actually have some respect for being, like, anti-fascist. Now I'm actually wondering, like, what would a socialist... I guess The Boys, right? You know, I guess we do have The Boys, which is, you know, anti-capitalist superhero media, where, like, the superheroes are kind of portrayed as the bad guy, or like, part of this system and whatnot. But I actually couldn't, because of how much, like, intrigue and fucking interpersonal drama there was, and how much everybody was all lying to each other, I actually couldn't stand to watch it, you know? There is that, but I wonder, like, if you had a superhero media written by, like, a socialist or something like, or, like, meant to have a socialist perspective, I wonder what that would look like, where, like, the superhero is sympathetic to socialism, you know, rather than like the superheroes being the antagonists and whatnot, because they're the face given to the like faceless corporate entity and stuff. I don't know. Even for, I think, even for people who like hate socialism and whatever, I know there are at least a couple people who hate watch my channel and stuff. You know, shout outs to those people giving me fucking free attention. But like, even for people who don't like socialism, I think it's important, because all you get is the same, like, status quo superhero slop over and over and over again. Like, something different would probably be nice, you know? And I think I actually might make this into a segment. I think that warrants discussion. It seems like a lot of my media segments end up just be me talking about superheroes and stuff. You can make a system where it's like magic and skill based, so it's less great man theory. That's possible. You could do something like that. God, that'd be hard. Comic strip with the superhero beating up racist cops. That would be great. Yeah, and if that were like, if you made a superhero show that was anti-capitalist, you can't have the cops be a force for good, because they're not in real life. You know, reality has a very anti-capitalist bend to it. So in this world, this hypothetical world where the superhero is, you know, the good guy per se, but they are also like ideologically sympathetic to socialism, the cops would be a very hostile force to the superhero, you know? If I ever made a superhero show, I would make the cops spineless bitches. True. That's so true. You have to make all of them look like thumbs, too. Need a Latino superhero like that? That'd be great. I actually don't know, though. Like, with the magic system and whatnot, I don't know if you could even really give them superpowers. I don't know. There's got to be something there. Anyways. That I think that's probably all I have in me for superhero talk. I'm pretty close to might be kind of close to ending the stream as well after a couple more races and stuff. Future me, if that ends up being like a media segment, end it there. Think of like the magic system based on information and like training, less like they were born that way. Yeah, that would be, you know, probably good logic to operate off of. You know, where it's like you weren't like born special, because that leads into some eugenics shit like really easily. I think Superman actually did this in a decent way, where it's like, oh yeah, he was born that way, but that's because like, oh, his people are from like a planet where the environment is way harsher, so they actually have to be this durable and this strong and have all these powers. Otherwise, if you were like lived on that planet, you'd just die, you know. But on Earth, the environment is a lot more hospitable, so this durability and like strength and whatever is not really necessary, you know. Superman actually handles that pretty all right, but I don't know how, like, you know, people have done a million like Superman clones and parodies and analogies and stuff in their superhero media. Yeah, they were photosynthetic. They like literally directly got their energy from their star, but their star was like a red star, so it was a lot dimmer than the sun. The sun is like a yellow orange star. Yeah, it's because the sun is you know, it's higher on the main sequence. It's much more energetic, a lot hotter, a lot more radiation. Is what the sun is white yellowish? Okay. I remembered it being like yeah, I know it's G2V. But I didn't remember if it was like yellow orange or white yellow or whatever the fuck. Yeah. So it's like the sun gives more radiation, so you know, photosynthetic plants are eaten good, literally. And photosynthetic people, if you're Superman, you know, he's eaten good. And now, the historic final mission of this specific live stream this time, that, you know, right now, is the historic final mission of the Department of Education, apparently. Me when my plan definitely isn't to delete / destroy the whole Department of Education. Shit, I messed something up. There we go. Somehow still got the start for that, the startup boost. U.S. Department of Ed workers decry, quote, final mission email as a power grab. Yeah, the Secretary of Education under Trump said, oh yeah, we're gonna be going on a historic final mission at the Department of Ed, which is like, yeah guys, we're gonna destroy the fucking department soon. My favorite person works for the education system. Sick. So does mine, actually. I you know, one of my professors was just a fucking massive homie. Incredibly smart dude, and I learned a ton from him. And also super cool. And I'm actually looking forward to the, like, what is it, 5? I think colleges do like the 5-year reunion or whatever. I'm actually looking forward to that so I can see him again, as well as my other professors. But anyways, yeah, the Department of Education is not long for this world, unfortunately. And I think I skimmed this article as well before. The Department of Ed said, like, oh yeah, we're embarking on a final mission. This is a few days old, even as I'm reading this now, or as I'm recounting this. But they said, like, something along the lines of, we're gonna give education, we're gonna turn it over to the states again. You know, they use the states' rights thing because their plan is to not have a federal Department of Education. Which is bad. I don't think I should have to say that necessarily, but yeah, it's bad. It's pretty bad, guys. I wanted to take the time to explore, like, why they're doing this. Obviously, conservatives fucking hate education, but there are two defining motivations that lead them to do this. It's not just one or the other. It's actually both. Now, we've talked at various points at length on this channel about the necessary irrationality of fascism. How does not having a federal Department of Education make sense? I will get to that. Yes, in one way it is because they want to be able to teach kids whatever they want. So if there's a state that's, like, controlled by Republicans, they can just do the whole, like, far-right propaganda education bit and nobody can stop them. There are certain guidelines set by the federal Department of Ed that are, like, very, very wide, you know? But, yeah, number one is because I guess actually there would be three. Number one, they want red states to be able to teach kids whatever they want, so you're going to learn that trans people are degenerates in school. Number two is because the fascists hate education as a concept. They do not like the concept of critical thought and introspection. Action must be engaged in for action's sake. Thought and critical thought are emasculating, and such and such. You know, books are for nerds, basically. Like, literally, that's part of the motivation for why, like, the far right really doesn't like education. But then there's another really big one. That they love education for them. The oligarchs love education for them, for their kids. Because if they're smart, they can stay on top. But they despise the concept of the working class being educated. Because then the working class might get smart enough to be like, hey, now hold on a minute. Maybe we should get a slice of the societal pie since we're fucking working everything and do everything. And, you know, since we're all the workhorses and shit. So gatekeeping education. Yes, those are the three reasons. Number one, they want to be able to indoctrinate kids and control children. It's to you know, teach them whatever they want. Keep the kids submissive and unawares. They want to keep the working class submissive and unawares. And they also just hate the concept of education for the fact that it's like, I don't know, books are dumb and for nerds or something like that. Literally, there's a version of this explained in Jojo Rabbit. Anybody seen Jojo Rabbit? Where the fucking kid whose name is Jojo, he has a imaginary friend played by the director Taika Waititi, and his imaginary friend is Hitler. It is incredible movie, one of the funniest fucking things I've seen on the screen. I would highly recommend it. And there's a scene where they're at the library. It's like Jojo's like, oh wow, you know, it's like the parody of Nazi Germany that's barely a parody. It's like, yeah, the Jude, they have horns, they have they spit fire, they have pitchfork, and like whatever the fuck else, you know, about like the Jews. And so Jojo's like, oh, I want to learn more about them, so I know how to fight them when a demon Jew shows up at my house, you know. And they go to the library. He's trying to find books on this stuff, and his imaginary friend Hitler's like, let's just go and get out of here. Books are dumb. You know, we should burn down this library, you know? And it was a very fun little point, but, like, encapsulates, like, a large part of the fascist mentality. Introspection is bad. Education is bad. Action must be engaged in for action's sake. Critical thought is emasculating. You know? Learn to be a big, strong man. You don't read any books. You know? So those are the three big things. And that is like, in a way, it does make sense why they're getting rid of the Federal Department of Education, and then in another way, they're doing it from like really, really irrational motivations that are going to lead to society languishing. You know, a lot of labor in the United States does require some degree of education. If you undercut the ability of people to be educated enough to perform their work, then like society's going to fall apart. You know. So basically, the fascists are being fascists, irrational, stupid, and like extremely creepy about kids. And the oligarchs are doing Marxism from the other side of the class divide. Literally, like, one of the biggest things about Marxism is that the working class should be well educated, at least insofar as their own interests are concerned. Like, you want people to have access to the resources to understand what they need and what situation people are in, you know? And the oligarchs understand that. They want to prevent people from learning what their interests are and learning about the world. The more people understand the world, the more they want to change it for the better. And the oligarchs don't want that because they're perfectly fine where they are. They want to preserve that social order. Do one more race. Here we go. Message to employees on Monday, newly confirmed Secretary of Education. Billionaire ex-wrestling executive. Yeah, Linda McMahon, wife to Vince McMahon from WWE, laid out the, quote, final mission for the department as Trump threatens to dismantle the agency. I did see as well in another news article, Trump is actually preparing to sign an executive order to that effect. They said, like, oh, they're not going to do it today. But there is an executive order in the works to dismantle the Department of Ed. So it's really on the chopping block. My vision is aligned with the president's to send education back to the states and empower all parents to choose an excellent education for their children. Yeah, so this is, you know, it's about controlling kids. And doing the whole, like, patriotic education propaganda bit. Thank you. I learned a lot on your stream. Gotta go. Big hugs. Big hugs to you too. Always happy to see people having a good time here. This is our opportunity to perform one final unforgettable public service to future generations of students. Love my liberal fascism, where even the most fascist measures are clothed in the language of limp-wristed liberalism. Oh, what a great track to end it on. My favorite custom track. It's going to cost so much destruction no matter if you pay attention to the news. You're going to know when it's going to happen. Yeah, people will, like... You're going to find out, like... irrespective of whether you pay attention to the news or not, you're gonna notice when the Department of Education is gone, because, like, that's a lot of money. Even if it's not the majority of money that schools get, it's still, like, I think it's something like 30 to 40%. Don't quote me on that. I have to find a, you know, statistic to that effect. But there's a lot of money that goes to various education departments that comes from the Federal Department of Education. And that money is going to be gone if the department no longer exists, you know, or if they dissolve it and put it into other agencies. Another thing that's going to happen is that student loans are going to be way different if they do this. This is a certified America moment because, you know, you have to go into debt to get an education at like the higher education level. But a lot of those loans used to be private. They used to be like a private bank would give out those loans. And then in the mid 2000s it changed so that like the government was now giving them out, and they were like a little bit more lenient with like more relief available. Eliminating the Department of Education would provide a like perfect opportunity to just set it back to like, oh yeah, by the way, the banks are now giving student loans to people and can charge like whatever interest rate they want or something like that. Those are a couple dimensions to this, is that like schools are not going to get as much federal money. People are going to have a harder time getting education, and that's the intended effect, you know? And in fact, that's kind of the intent of having education be something that you need to go into debt for at all, is to make it harder to get an education, and to, basically gatekeep it to those who have enough money. Like, straightforwardly, the purpose of making education so cost prohibitive is, well, to make it so that only wealthy people can get an education, so that the working class stays dumb. Message comes as Trump is reportedly finalizing plans to issue an executive order to eliminate the 45-year-old Department of Ed, and eliminate or reorganize the department's functions and programs. Yeah, so some of the stuff that the department does might still happen, but it would be under different agencies. And I have no doubt that, like, most of it just wouldn't happen. When you watch this next Invincible season, I want you to analyze it, even not if I'm not there in the room. Oh, I will definitely analyze the season of Invincible if I'm watching it. That's one of my favorite things to do when I watch media, because I'm also a giant nerd. I love analyzing media as I'm watching and consuming it. The workers at the Department of Education called the email a power grab focused on privatization at the expense of children with disabilities and from low-income families. Shout outs to the workers in the Department of Education. People who work in the education system, that's my goat right there, whoever said this. Because it is. It's focused on privatization. The Department of Ed does a lot of public services, and not having it means that a lot of that would be delegated back to the private sector. Heartbreaking to read such a disingenuous, manipulative letter from the head of the agency, said one employee who requested anonymity. Yeah, and a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, too. I don't read the letter to be the end of the department. It reads as a transformation into something sinister, a tool for the president to use to ensure his ideology is implemented by states and local governments at the risk of losing funding. Oh, that's something that didn't even occur to me. But yeah, Trump has said this. One of the things he was willing to do is basically threaten states that are not politically friendly to him to say, hey, you need to comply with my ideological agenda. Otherwise, I'm going to withhold this money from you. You're not going to get this federal money that's supposed to go to you, but I'm just going to withhold it because, like, who's going to stop me, right? Congress? The fucking legislative body that does jack shit, you know? Democrats would never do that. Yeah, because it's illegal and unconstitutional. It is, like, the most illegal that anything can be in this country. But, because Trump is powerful enough, because he's an oligarch, and because the Democrats are spineless, the law doesn't matter. If the Republicans just decide, yeah, we're not going to do X, Y, or Z, it is incumbent on, well, people who aren't those Republicans to actually enforce the law. This only works because the Democrats are too spineless to actually take any meaningful action to say, no, actually, you can't do that. We are going to literally go around you and behind your back, communicate with the courts and whatever, to say you can't do that. And to fucking stop you from doing that, you know? Make sure to buy fireworks. It's the exact overreach it's purporting to stop, quote from this worker. Another Department of Ed employee explained that morale is beyond low. It comes after an email from Elon Musk's so-called Doge told staff to justify their jobs by emailing 5 bullet points explaining what they did last week. Yes. Right. Just put finger quotes on fireworks. Yeah, true, fireworks. After reading the former WWE CEO's email, that's like the fake wrestling shit for those in like Europe or wherever, coming off the back of Musk's email made me realize that I have 3 bosses that are billionaires that know nothing about improving performance of America's students. God damn. Dude, imagine if any Democrat was like as vicious as these random workers at the Department of Education. Honestly, we need to run more teachers. More teachers need to run for fucking public office. Social studies teachers, particularly. This is a power grab. The message is clear that they want to privatize public dollars on the backs of our nation's most vulnerable children. We know poor children and children with disabilities will suffer with the plans McMahon has laid out. That's the Secretary of Education. Private schools will leave our students with disabilities out. Poor kids will receive less money to compete on a level playing field. Yeah, that's true. Private schools often are not great in terms of like education. Sure, they can provide a decent quality of education if you fit certain normative markers, those markers being you're not like queer or disabled, right? Like there are certain accommodations that public services are obliged to do for minorities and people with disabilities that private schools aren't. Being a teacher will either make you a fascist dictator or socialist for some reason a lot quicker. Yeah, it's because, you know, education comes with a realization of like the insufficiency of the status quo or whatever. It's like it goes one way or the other. Either you start hyperfixating on the control over children, in which case you become a really fucking weird fascist like maniac, or you basically become Rosa Luxemburg. A third employee characterized the email as incredibly hostile and ominous of the plan to dismantle the department. Rare banger from The Guardian, I guess. But yeah, and the point of the Department of Ed is like to, well, again, provide public funding where it's needed. So, you know, poor schools benefit from this more than schools in wealthy areas. So that's another part of this. I guess more of that class dimension. They hate you. They hate you. They want you dead. They want you stupid, most of all. I guess this plays into billionaires wanting a workforce of slaves. If they can keep you dumb, they can more easily keep you enslaved. And education is not just job training. A lot of the neoliberal lie of the education system is that it is getting you ready for the workforce. Gonna leave. Hope you have a good day. The fascists don't take you. Thank you. Have a good day. One of the great neoliberal lies of education is that it is preparing you for the workforce. In a way, it is doing that because it's supposed to give you certain cognitive skills. But more importantly, I believe education is a liberatory force and well, it's meant to give you perspective and to like help you understand the world around you that you're about to enter beyond just work. That's why we have education for things like the arts, you know, because education is good. It's like, you know, it usually produces some pretty good experiences, you know, if it's not absolute shit. That's why all these fucking tech bros have no, like, these fucking tech bros have no background in the social sciences, you know? Because their version of education is just job training. And if education is just job training, then it doesn't teach you much about the world around you beyond that which you must do to meet the interests of your boss, the person above you, the person enslaving you. You know? If you understand a little bit more the social climate and the work environment that you're about to enter, then you would be better primed to recognize exploitative conditions and to recognize like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. We should improve society, actually. And the billionaires don't want that. And that's why, at the core of it, that is why this is happening. Because, you know, now they have the power to do this, and the billionaires are like, finally, we get to make the working class even stupider. Anyways. If any of those are segments, you know, future me, cut it there. I'm gonna raid somebody now. This was a good stream. Azan. Altitude sickness too. What the fuck is Cody on about? Actually, I'm gonna raid Cody. There we go. I want to know what Altitude Sickness 2 is. I don't know if he's just referring to being in British Columbia. I think Battle of BC is happening this weekend, but I don't know for sure. All right. See y'all next time.